Welcome back to another episode of Rewind. This is the show where we talk about films celebrating 10, 20, and 30-year anniversaries. This is the show where we're going to make you feel old. Let's not waste any time today. It is July 2022, 4th of July, Independence Day. We're all having fun. It's summertime. Let's get started. So the first thing we're going to talk about is Rewind. 10 years, all the way back into July of 2012. Alright, so I got my list pulled up. Let's list some of these out. We got The Amazing Spider-Man, Katy Perry, Pardon Me. I did not watch that movie. Savages, I did see that movie. I didn't really care for it. Collaborator, Ice Age, Continental Drift, Farewell My Queen. Let's see, The Imposter, Shut Up, and Play the Hits. Don't remember that one. The Dark Knight Rises, The Queen of Versailles, Iron Sky, Ruby Sparks, Step Up Revolution, The Watch. I do remember that one. I've only seen it the one time. Killer Joe and Searching for Sugar Man. So those are the movies that are celebrating 10 years. But like always, I'm only going to talk about the ones that stand out to me. And so the last two episodes, in May we talked about the original Spider-Man. In June we talked about Batman Returns. So if you know me, I think you know where the two that stand out to me are Spider-Man and Batman. Like I told you before, my two favorite superheroes of all time, Spider-Man and Batman. I don't remember both these movies coming out at the same time. And that's what the list says. I didn't fact check this list, but I know they came out in those years. I know they came out in 2012. I do not remember them coming out the same month, but I guess they did. So let's talk about it. The Dark Knight Rises. Alright. I love the Nolan Batman series. Dark Knight was my favorite of that series. This is not my favorite, but I still like Dark Knight Rises. Christian Bale is the Batman. I love Christian Bale as Batman. Not a fan of the voice he does, but I still love him as Batman. And Tom Hardy playing Bane. Alright. And Anne Hathaway playing Catwoman. I think everybody did a great job with this movie. Now I know a lot of people don't like Bane, and I understand why. The Bane in this movie is not the Bane from the comics. What I always say is Tom Hardy played a good character named Bane. I think Tom Hardy's work was great. I liked the design of the character, and I liked that character. Is that character Bane from the comics? No. But the character Tom Hardy played was good. Tom Hardy played that character that he was given great. And I know Christopher Nolan wanted to make a grounded, more realistic superhero film. Not someone who is taking some kind of serum to make himself big and strong like the comics, so he would not have done that anyway. So what he was made was great, in my opinion. I like the film still. And if you look at the tomato score, I think people would agree. So Rotten Tomatoes gives this an 87%. Audience gives this a 90%. So they're pretty close to the scores, and I would agree with them. The other movie stands out. Talked about already. Spider-Man. The Amazing Spider-Man. So as much as I love Tom Holland, I love Tom Holland's character. I love Tom Holland as Spider-Man. But Andrew Garfield was my favorite Spider-Man. I know the movies weren't the best, but I loved Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, and I loved seeing him come back in No Way Home. We talked about Tobey Maguire coming back a few months ago. Now we're talking about how Andrew Garfield came back, and I would love to see more Andrew Garfield movies, also with Tom Holland movies, like different universes. I know Sony has this Spider-Verse thing they're doing that's separate from the MCU, dotted line, connected. I would love to see maybe Andrew Garfield lead those movies and Tom Holland stays with the MCU Disney side. I think that'd be great. Critics gave this a 72% certified fresh. Audience 77%. And I would agree with them. Alright. We talked about 10 years. Now let's rewind to July of 2012. The movie celebrating 20 years. Alright. Like Mike. Men in Black 2. The Powerpuff Girls movie. Crocodile Hunter. Collision Course. I do not remember them making a Crocodile Hunter movie. I never watched the show. I do not remember the movie. Halloween Resurrection. Reign of Fire. Road to Perdition. Alright. Eight-Legged Freaks. I haven't watched that movie in a while. I do remember liking this movie when it came out. It's a dumb movie, I will admit, but I liked it, which is surprising because I'm terrified of spiders. K-19 Widowmaker, Stuart Little 2, Tarzan and Jane, Austin Powers Goldmember, The Country Bears. Alright, there's a lot of movies July 2002. A lot of good ones. Alright. So let's talk about the ones that stand out to me. So there's quite a bit that stand out to me. First, the Austin Powers series is a great example of something that doesn't hold up, in my opinion. I remember liking these movies a lot when I was a kid. I do remember hating this one, but the first two I did like. When I was younger and as a teenager, I thought these movies were hilarious. I used to quote them for many, many years. And until one day, as a more adult, I watched these movies again, and they were not as funny as I remember. There are some parts that are still pretty funny, but they were not as funny as I remember, as I made them out in my head. In my head, when I was telling people, like, this is the greatest movie of all time, the funniest, it's awesome, it's hilarious. And then going back to watch them again, to me they don't hold up what they used to. And for this one, I hated it. I remember not liking this one though. And the critics would agree. So 53% score, audience 44% score. So audience even didn't like it more than the critics. So not a good movie. Alright, another one, Halloween Resurrection. That stood out to me. I love the Halloween franchise. Michael Myers is my favorite scary movie character. I love Michael Myers. I have seen every Halloween movie that's ever been made. I have hated some of the Halloween movies, but the franchise itself, I still love them. I love Michael Myers. There are some of the franchise that I don't like, some that I love, and this is one of the ones in the franchise that I do not like. I mean, it's okay. One of my favorite though is Halloween H2O. I know a lot of people hate that movie, but it's one of my favorites. I love that movie. Couldn't tell you why, but I do like that movie. Another one I like is the Rob Zombie first one. I did like that movie. I hate the sequel that Rob Zombie did. I hate that movie so much. But we're not talking about those movies. We were talking about Halloween Resurrection. I do remember it's just okay movie. To me, it's not my favorite, but it's there. If you watch the newer ones, this movie's kind of been retconned. Stores. Let's talk about the stores of Rotten Tomato stores of Halloween Resurrection. Critics at 12% and audience 25%. Those are pretty low ratings, but I would have to agree. As much as I love Halloween, I would have to agree with those ratings. Another one that stands out to me, Reign of Fire. I love this movie. To me, it is such a cool movie. It's fun. I love dystopian movies, and to add dragons to it, it's great. What's not to like? And back when I had cable, anytime this movie came across TV, I'd watch it. I own this movie. I watched it recently. To me, I still enjoy it. It's still fun. I love the scene where Matthew McConaughey jumps at the dragon, gets eaten by the dragon. I still like that movie. Critics rating 42% and audience 49%. So this is an example of where I disagree with those scores. Obviously, I'm the minority here. but I would have to disagree with those stories. I would give it higher. To me, it's a badass movie. Alright, now let's rewind. 10 more years. July 1992. Boomerang, A League of Their Own. The Best Intentions. Cool World. Prelude to a Kiss. Universal Soldier. Revenge of the Nerds 3. Honey, I Blew Up the Kid. Man Trouble. A Stranger Among Us. Mistress. Mo Money. Mom and Dad Save the World. I do remember that movie. I haven't probably seen it in almost 30 years, but I remember that movie as a kid. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I never watched the movie, but I did watch the show. Death Becomes Her. I do remember that one. Enchanted April. Alright, so again, I was 7 years old in July of 1992. So a lot of those movies do not stand out to me because I didn't watch them. But two that kind of stand out to me. A League of Their Own. Alright. I don't remember much of A League of Their Own. I do remember watching this as a kid, and I probably have not seen this since I was a kid. So I do not remember that much about it. So I can't really say what I felt back then because I don't remember. It stood out to me because I know it's a popular movie. And it's a classic with a classic line, "There's no crying in baseball." And another reason it stood out to me is because I've not watched the trailer, but I've seen the announcement of they're making a League of Their Own show on Amazon Prime, I think it was. Let's talk about the Rotten Tomato score. 80%, 84%. So, like I said, a lot of people like this movie. Alright, another one that stands out to me. But not for good reasons. It is the Cool World. Alright. I never watched this as a kid. I probably shouldn't have watched this as a kid. I think my parents thought this would be like Roger Rabbit and rented it, and I remember them turning it off. I did see it later on, and it is definitely not a kid's movie, and definitely not a good movie. I did not like this at all. I remember being excited about it, and I saw the poster when I was a kid, liking Roger Rabbit, thinking that would be just like Roger Rabbit, and it was not. I mean, it's filmed like Roger Rabbit, animated characters, live action characters, but it is definitely not a good movie. It's a pretty garbage movie, and it's pretty dumb. And the scores would have to agree. So, critics rating, 4%. That is a low score, 4%. And then audience score, 31%, which is kind of high. That 4% score is a low score, and it deserves it. It's a garbage movie. Alright, so I did mention that if there's an older movie out there that deserves to be talked about, I would talk about it. And like last month we talked about E.T., this month we're going to talk about a movie as well. 40 years, celebrating their 40th anniversary, is Tron. Tron is a different kind of movie, and obviously I was not alive when Tron came out. I didn't watch Tron until I was way an adult. I think I watched Tron for the first time when the sequel to Tron came out. What they were doing, they were pretty innovative in the technology and the special effects they used in Tron in 1984. Obviously those special effects have grown significantly, and if you've seen the new Tron, there's a big difference than the original Tron and Tron the sequel. But I can see as a young film fan who likes video games would have loved this movie back in 1984. So I do think it deserved to be talked about. And I think the scores would agree with me. So Rotten Tomatoes gave Tron a 71%. Certified fresh. And audience score is 69%. So that tells you Tron still holds up to this day. But that's still not it. There's one more film I want to talk about. Going back another 10 years, 50 years. Celebrating 50 years, July of 1972, Deliverance. I remember, I have seen this movie. And I remember as a kid, growing up in small country woods in Missouri, hearing a lot of people talk about Deliverance, not knowing what they were talking about, not knowing the references they were talking about, until I seen this movie later on in life as an adult, and holy crap, that is, I can see why all the references in the backwoods in Missouri. None of that stuff ever happened to me. Never seen it happen before, but yeah, it's definitely a dark movie. I think I saw it come out one time on Starz or HBO. So I would say this movie still holds up because I still hear references to this movie, even after 50 years. And I think the critic scores would agree. Rotten Tomatoes, 89% certified fresh. Audience scores, 82%. So, there you go. Still holds up. So that's it today, everybody. That's it for July of 2022 Film Rewind. Hope you don't feel old, but as always, be kind, rewind.